Russia is reportedly agreeing to give the Chinese military a boost, training Chinese soldiers to be parachuted into the battlefield. From aircraft, providing equipment, and sharing experience in airdropping armored vehicles. That's according to RUSI, the world's oldest defense think tank. It says sharing the expertise could increase Beijing's ability to take Taiwan. Chinese leader Xi Jinping has asked the military to prepare for a Taiwan invasion by 2027. One challenge Beijing would face in a Taiwan invasion is deploying a large number of troops on the island. Taiwan has very few deep water ports and beaches suitable for a large landing force. That's where the Russian expertise could potentially fill in the gap. Training for command and control of airborne forces, combat experience China doesn't have. If China could suppress Taiwan's air defenses, parachute special forces onto the island, and airdrop armored vehicles, it could quickly transfer combat power onto Taiwan. The document shows in 2023, Russia agreed to provide the Chinese military with special equipment for airborne infiltration. In 2024, Russia agreed to sell some weapons to the Chinese Air Force, including anti-tank guns and airborne armored personnel carriers. Russia also agreed to train Chinese paratroopers to use the equipment. The think tank reviewed 800 pages of contracts and collateral materials obtained by a hacktivist group. The report says by buying weapons from China, Beijing continues to contribute to Russia's war on Ukraine. The Trump administration is rolling out new moves targeting the H-1B non-immigrant work visa program. This follows President Trump's $100,000 fee on every new H-1B visa, which took effect last weekend. On Tuesday, the White House submitted a proposal aiming to overhaul the existing lottery system to favor higher-skilled, better-paid foreign workers. The administration says the move is designed to protect American jobs from cheaper foreign labor. Starting Wednesday, the proposal enters a 30-day public comment period before it can be finalized. Currently, the U.S. issues 65,000 H-1B visas each year, with an additional 20,000 reserved for those with advanced degrees. To discuss the potential impact of the new rule and what it means for U.S. competitiveness in the tech race with countries like China, we spoke with retired U.S. Marine Colonel Grant Newsham, a senior fellow at the Center for Security Policy. Now, the recent H-1B visa fee announcements have been making all sorts of headlines. Now, the administration wants to cut reliance on foreign talent in the U.S. tech sector, saying the current, quote, abuses of the H-1B program present a national security threat by discouraging Americans from pursuing careers in science and technology, risking American leadership in these fields. First, do you think this policy can help the White House achieve those stated goals?
Well, I think it can. I think you found that certain companies have actually abused the system. It's just the way they do things. If you can get something for cheaper, you're going to do that. And I saw this firsthand when I worked for a major company. And they would tell you very clearly, well, we can get cheaper employees from China. So we're going to put all of our IT in China. So I think this is a necessary and overdue step. Over time, cumulatively, it is going to make it harder for, say, American technology people to get jobs, and that has a discouraging effect. So the pipeline tends to dry up when there's a sense that, well, there's no jobs available. Now, remember, we used to be the world leaders in semiconductors 30, 40 years ago. And then once that was offshored, sent overseas, well, it suddenly wasn't a sort of a area of study that was in demand. And we're scrambling to try and find Americans who can actually do this sort of work. So I say it does over time, it has a serious effect. I think the administration is addressing it by and large correctly. I think they're a little heavy-handed in how they're applying it. And there's a lot of people who deserve H-1B visas, but the administration runs the risks of sort of dealing with a problem that deserves a scalpel, and they're using a sledgehammer for it. They should have done it with a little more caution. But the underlying problem, I think that is a sort of a problem that needed to be addressed, and I think they were right to go about it.
And digging into that, critics are saying, this could discourage international students from studying here. There's already been some changes in that regards to begin with. And then, often they come into the country, they study, they get a career, they can stay, get these visas and stuff. What do you make of that argument?
The purposes of this, the H-1B visa program, I think they have long since been sort of sort of disposed of. And it's really a way that companies can hire people for a lot less. Well, the Americans would, have some pathway to getting a sort of a technology job. But as I said, there's plenty of people who deserve these visas, and particularly in other areas, who are now excluded because of this $100,000 fee just to apply. And these are people who in some cases have already made sort of more contributions to the national welfare than most Americans have, and they're sort of iced out. So a little more thought should have been given to how this was rolled out.
Now, China has responded with a Beijing spokesperson saying that China won't comment on U.S. visa policies. He added that China welcomes talents from all over the world to come to China and, quote, root in China for their careers. Now, we do know that over the years, China has proactively approached U.S. talent to work for them and try to pull them out of our market and sphere. What do you make of the current state of the tech race between the U.S. and China?
Well, the Chinese should not be underestimated. This idea that somehow we'll always be ahead of the Chinese, that sort of condescension will get you killed. But in terms of China being the go-to destination for young students worldwide, I don't see that happening. You don't see people just beating down the doors or risking their lives to go live in China. The United States, the free nations, are always going to be the places that people want to live as long as we are. So if we don't blow it, I think they could probably buy off some Ivy League professors and plenty of sort of talent at that end. But they would probably demand to be paid in US dollars for one thing, and I doubt they'd want to set up lodgings in China itself. But in terms of a fundamental shift in where the demand is, where in terms of people wanting to go work and live, I think America and the other democracies have the upper hand.
I want to zoom in on a potential shift we could be seeing, because we are seeing headlines and some analysts saying that China is going to benefit from this, especially the fee part, and that some major tech companies might actually start building centers outside of the U.S. to try and draw in talent locally there. What do you make of those opinions?
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me, particularly when you look at the tech companies and also say the financial institutions that have huge technology components just to do their work. A lot of them already have set up business in China, set up their centers there, apparently oblivious to the fact that the Chinese Communist Party intends to destroy them ultimately after it's sucked everything useful out of them. Just the short-sightedness that we've already seen in these companies putting in, say, their technology centers, their R&D centers, their back office computer work, putting it in China. If they've been doing that already, well, I'd say the sky's the limit in terms of the sort of at best naive and at worst like really stupid efforts to put their sort of key activities in the People's Republic of China.
And zeroing on the timing of this, it does seem this policy is specifically targeting India and China, since the two countries are where most of the H-1B visas were going to. Especially India took about 71% of U.S. H-1B visas last year, and recently President Trump has made his opinions very clear. He's not happy with China and India for helping to fund Russia for the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. Do you see a correlation, if you will, between the two, the timing here with the H-1B visas and the war?
It wouldn't surprise me at all. I think it would make sense. I doubt it was just a coincidence that it happened now. But as I said, if the idea is to punish India, punish China for what they're doing to help the Russians in Ukraine, there may be some benefit to that. There probably is. But at the same time, you should roll this out with a little more caution and a little more judgment than they've shown to date.
Well, Grant Newsham, as always, thank you so much. Polar Silk Road, China's aggression. The White House and China have inched even. China is really after in the Arctic. An Israeli lawmaker triggering Beijing's fury after visiting Taiwan and calling its leader president. Beijing responded with sharp warnings. We take a closer look. Welcome back to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. China's global ambition expanding. It announced on Tuesday the launch of the world's first Arctic shipping route, connecting its ports directly to Europe. The new route is raising serious concerns about environmental impacts and geopolitical risks. A Chinese cargo ship departed one of China's busiest ports on the eastern coast on Monday. It is traveling north through the East China Sea, passing through the Bering Strait, and then taking the Northern Sea route, the one running along Russia's Arctic coast. The ship is expected to arrive at Felixstowe Port in the UK in just 18 days. That's 22 days faster than taking the traditional route through the Suez Canal. Chinese officials say the route marks a major milestone in their Polar Silk Road project. The concept was first introduced by Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping during a 2017 visit to Moscow, where he met Russian President Vladimir Putin. The Polar Silk Road is China's way of extending its Belt and Road initiative into the Arctic. It is seen as part of China's broader strategy to reshape global trade routes and challenge the existing world order. In 2018, China released an official document outlining its Arctic strategy, which formally introduced the Polar Silk Road. Boaz Toporowski, a member of Israel's parliament, recently visited Taiwan, sparking backlash from Beijing. During his meeting with Taiwan's leader, Lai Ching-te, Toporowski referred to him as president, saying he spoke on behalf of the people of Israel. The comments drew a sharp rebuke from China's embassy in Israel on Sunday. Beijing accused Toporowski of...
If you're looking to spruce up the outside of your house, these are the coolest and easiest lights you can buy and require no tools to install. Each box...
国际局势基本格局就是美中对抗。美中对抗之下，台湾呢肯定有微妙的地位理论上，双方都要来争取台湾，但是呢，台湾很明显，根据价值观，不可能说左边也满足，右边也满足。我们肯定是选择民主自由肯定选择这个正确的价值观，站在正确的一方所以呢，我们国内的选择看国际局势要充分理解。 到最后，我们选择的站在的是正确的价值观的一边。